What if I told you some questions in the world are designed to never be answered? Not because they're unsolvable, but because the answers themselves create more questions, twisting logic into fascinating knots. These are paradoxes, my friends, and they're more than just brain teasers. They're glimpses into the fundamental nature of logic, choice, and maybe even reality itself. Join me as we explore some of the most mind-bending paradoxes that have puzzled philosophers and scientists for centuries. Imagine walking into a store. You need toothpaste, simple, right? But then you see an entire aisle dedicated to it. Dozens of brands, flavors, and features. Suddenly, you're paralyzed. This is the paradox of choice. Logically, more options should mean a better chance of finding the perfect one. But psychologically, too much choice can lead to anxiety, decision fatigue, and even regret. We think we want endless options, but sometimes a little limitation can be strangely freeing. Let's say you're racing towards a finish line. To get there, you first have to cover half the distance, then half of the remaining distance, and so on. Zeno, that ancient Greek trickster, argued that you'd never actually reach the end because you'd always have another half to cover. Of course, we know we can move through space, but Zeno's paradoxes, while flawed in their application, touch upon the intriguing relationship between infinity, motion, and our perception of reality. This one's a classic, straight out of Joseph Heller's brilliant novel. Imagine you're a pilot in World War II. You want to be grounded for insanity, to avoid flying dangerous missions, but here's the catch: asking to be grounded proves you're sane. The catch-22 is a paradox of circular logic, highlighting the absurdity of bureaucratic rules and the feeling of being trapped by systems designed to keep you down. Chapter 4. The Euthyphro Dilemma. Is it good because God says so? This ancient philosophical puzzle dives right into the heart of morality. The Euthyphro Dilemma, named after a dialogue written by Plato, presents a profound question that has puzzled thinkers for centuries. Is something good because God commands it? This question challenges the very nature of divine command theory, which suggests that moral values are dictated by God's will, or does God command it because it's inherently good? This alternative suggests that moral truths exist independently of God's decrees, implying that even a divine being recognizes and adheres to these truths. If it's the first, morality becomes arbitrary, dependent on God's whim. This means that what is considered good could change if God's commands were different, making moral standards seem unstable and capricious. If it's the latter, then there's a standard of good outside of God, challenging the idea of absolute divine authority. This implies that moral principles are universal and unchanging, existing independently of any divine being. The Euthyphro Dilemma forces us to confront the foundations of our own ethical beliefs. It asks us to consider whether our sense of right and wrong is grounded in divine command or in an independent moral order. This dilemma remains a central topic in the study of ethics and philosophy of religion, encouraging deep reflection and debate about the nature of morality and the role of divine authority in our understanding of what it means to be good. Chapter 5. Time travel paradoxes, meeting your past self and other temporal twisters. Time travel. The concept that has fascinated humanity for generations. The ultimate plot device for science fiction. From H.G. Wells' The Time Machine to modern-day blockbusters, time travel has always captured our imagination, but it's a minefield of paradoxes. The more you think about it, the more complex it becomes. Imagine navigating a maze where every turn could lead to a different timeline. What happens if you go back in time and accidentally prevent your own birth? This is known as the grandfather paradox. If you were never born, how could you have traveled back in time in the first place? Or kill your grandfather, as the classic paradox goes? This scenario raises questions about the very fabric of reality and causality. These scenarios expose the potential contradictions in a universe where cause and effect can be flipped. Scientists and philosophers have debated these issues for years, trying to understand the implications. It makes you wonder, is time travel truly possible, or just a fascinating thought experiment? While we may not have definitive answers, the journey of exploring these questions is as intriguing as the concept of time travel itself. Whether it's through the pages of a book, The scenes of a movie or the theories of a scientist, time travel continues to be a captivating subject. It challenges our understanding of reality and pushes the boundaries of what we believe is possible. So as we ponder the mysteries of time, let's keep our minds open to the endless possibilities. After all, the future is just as uncertain as the past we wish to revisit. Chapter 6. The Trolley Problem. The ultimate ethical dilemma. Get ready for a moral roller coaster. A runaway trolley is barreling down the tracks. On one track are 5 unsuspecting people, on the other, just one. You have the power to switch the trolley's path, saving 5 lives, but sacrificing 1. Do you intervene or let fate run its course? There's no right answer, but the trolley problem forces us to confront our values, weighing the worth of one life against many. Chapter 7. The Sorites Paradox. When does a heap of sand stop being a heap? Let's talk about sand. Imagine a vast beach with countless grains of sand forming a massive heap. Now picture a small heap of sand on a table. Both are heaps, but what happens when we start removing grains? If you have a heap of sand and remove one grain, you still have a heap, right? This seems obvious. One grain doesn't make a difference, but what if you keep removing grains one by one? As you continue to remove grains, the heap gets smaller and smaller. But at what point does it stop being a heap? Is it after 10 grains, 100 grains, or perhaps 1,000 grains? This gradual process makes it difficult to pinpoint the exact moment when a heap ceases to be a heap. At what point does it stop being a heap? This question is at the heart of the Sorites paradox, a philosophical puzzle that challenges our understanding of vague concepts and categories. The Sorites paradox highlights the fuzziness of language and the challenges of defining vague concepts. It shows how our everyday language can struggle to cope with gradual changes and the arbitrary nature of some boundaries. For example, when does a person become tall? Or when does a collection of objects become a pile? It reveals how our intuition can struggle with gradual change and the arbitrary nature of some boundaries. The Sorites paradox encourages us to think more deeply about how we define and understand the world around us, and to recognize the limitations of our language and concepts. So, next time you see a heap of sand, remember the paradox and ponder, when does a heap stop being a heap? Time to dive into the world of sets, those collections of objects in mathematics. Consider a set that contains all sets that don't contain themselves. The question is, does this set contain itself? If it does, it shouldn't, but if it doesn't, it should. Russell's paradox shook the foundations of set theory, revealing contradictions in seemingly basic mathematical concepts, and forcing mathematicians to re-examine the very language they used to describe the universe. Imagine the legendary ship of Theseus slowly falling apart. As parts wear out, they're replaced until eventually every single piece is new. Is it still the same ship? This paradox grapples with identity and change. It applies to objects, ideas, even ourselves. As we grow and evolve, are we still fundamentally the same person, even if every cell in our body has been replaced? In a village, there's a barber who shaves all men who don't shave themselves. Seems simple, right? But who shaves the barber? If he shaves himself, he violates his own rule. If he doesn't, he must be shaved by himself, according to the rule. The barber paradox, while a bit whimsical, helped mathematicians identify inconsistencies in early set theory, leading to more rigorous and paradox-free formulations. From the choices we make to the nature of time and identity, paradoxes challenge our assumptions and expose the limits of logic. They remind us that the universe is full of mysteries, and that sometimes the most intriguing questions are the ones without easy answers. Which paradox resonated with you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy unraveling these mysteries, hit like and subscribe.